This is Russell Fagan, aka Sinistral Rifleman, and this is my video using the Brownells retroscope at the Rio Black Rifle match held October 5th, 2019. I shot this match with Carl from InRange. Carl used the retroscope on his Colt SP1, 0'd at 100 yards per the instructions. I used the retroscope on my 723 style build. I put this one together myself using a Wyndham Weaponry A1/C7 style upper with M4 profile barrel and permanently affixed long A2 style flash hider. The lower is a KE Arms KE15 forged receiver with ambidextrous controls and DMR trigger. Normally this rifle is equipped with a mil-spec trigger and standard controls, as it was at the April 2019 Two-Gun Action Challenge match when I last used it. For this match though, I wanted to use it in Stealth Division, which is where I normally compete at the Rio Black Rifle match. Stealth Division is basically an open division rifle with multiple optics, a bipod, but limited to 30-round magazines. The 723 build would also fit into TAC Scope Division with the Brownells retroscope mounted. However, I believe it would be more of a competitive disadvantage to compete with 30-round magazines in that division than it would be to compete in stealth without a bipod and without dual optics. And like I said, I have a lot of data shooting Stealth Division at this match with numerous division wins over the past couple years that the match has been running. So this would offer me a better opportunity to compare my scores versus previous events. Just prior to shooting the match, I conducted a hasty 50-yard zero using Armscore 62 grain ammunition. I used the Strelok ballistic calculator to compare the difference between a 100-yard zero and a 50-yard zero, taking into consideration the 3.54 inches of bore offset that the retroscope has. With the 50-yard zero, there is less divergence between point of aim and point of impact at all the ranges that we would normally shoot this match at. The BDC turret on these is calibrated for 20-inch barrels, so even if I wanted to dial it on the clock and take the time to do so, it would likely not coincide with the ballistics the same way it would with a 20-inch rifle like Carl was using. On this stage, the shooter has to engage 3 target arrays from 2 different positions. This first hanging plate rack is at about 90 yards. These hanging diamonds are at about 200 yards. Then these 2 hanging diamonds are at about 300 yards. The engagement sequence is repeated from this rooftop prop. It is a bit less stable than the tank trap that I started at.
Finish on load, show clear. 5, 6, 5, 6.
In Stealth Division, I'm second with 98.9% of the winner's score. Overall, I'm 10th with 69.75% of the winner's score. This stage begins with some close-range paper. I'm attempting to use the irons that you can see through underneath the retroscope. Even though I've walked this stage several times, moving through with my vision obscured like this, I lose track of where I'm at, go to an area where I don't need to shoot, and then have to back up and re-engage that target there. Using the irons underneath a scope like this is something that sounds better in theory than it actually works in practice. From this position, there are 6 plates that are at about 40 to 60 yards, and then I finish on the final target, which is a silhouette at 300 yards. Feels good to get that first round hit on the 300-yard target. On this stage, I'm 4th in stealth with 82.3% of the winner's score. Overall, I'm 18th with 71.37% of the winner's score. For the close-range paper targets on this stage, I opt to just look through the scope with both eyes open. When the scope's filled with the brown cardboard, I send it. From these 2 positions, the shooter will engage this hanging plate rack at about 50 yards and 2 static steel plates at just under 200 yards.
2, 3.
I'm second stealth on this stage with 80.6% of the winner's score. Overall, I'm ninth with 76.29% of the winner's score. This stage begins engaging 8 paper targets from inside the chopper. There are 2 very close arrays of 3 that I engage through the scope with both eyes open, then 2 targets here at about 10 yards. After I exit the chopper, I conduct a reload, then engage another 8 paper targets. Time to reload on the move again to the final shooting position where I have to engage 3 static silhouettes at about 300 yards. I'm third stealth on this stage with 84.62% of the winner's score. Overall, I'm 19th with 59.52% of the winner's score. On this stage, the shooter engages 3 target arrays from this first position, then the same target arrays again from the purple staircase platform that you'll see at the end of the stage. On the way to the platform, the shooter engages a number of paper targets.
Oh, great.
Here I experience the first of several malfunctions that occur on this stage. It is a mid-casing strike on a partially fed round. Again, another partially fed round malfunction. On the 5th and final stage of the match, I'm feeling in the zone using the retroscope. Getting into the eye box has become natural, and I know the holdovers and hold-unders that I need to use on these various target systems. So of course something has to go wrong, and I'm having malfunctions on this last stage.
Finish on load, show clear. 7591. Clear.
The malfunctions drop me down quite a bit on this stage. I'm 8th in stealth with 61.2% of the winner's score. Overall, I'm 32nd with 57.86% of the winner's score. In the end, I'm second out of 17 shooters in stealth division with 86.3% of the winner's score. Overall, I'm 13th out of 69 shooters with 72.35% of the winner's score. Even without the unfortunate malfunctions on the final stage, it wouldn't have made enough difference to allow me to win first place in stealth division, though it may have changed the results in the overalls by a few places. I do think the results are a testament to how capable this scope is, even though it is a retro design. Without any practice, and without any of the advantages of the division, I was able to place within 15% of the division winner's score, and within about 20% of my typical performance in stealth division at this match. Is the retroscope as capable as a modern variable scope with daylight illumination and BDC reticle, or even a fixed power ACOG with active daylight illumination and BDC reticle? No, it is not, but it is surprisingly capable for what it is. Comparing it to modern optics does it a disservice. If you own a retro rifle, whether period built or a modern recreation by Brownells, you are the person this scope is intended for. The glass in the Brownells retroscope is absolutely more clear than period scopes sold under the Colt brand. If you want to enhance the capabilities of your rifle beyond what you can accomplish with iron sights, while maintaining that retro look and feel, the Brownells retroscope is what you're looking for. I will be using my retroscope in Retro Division at InRange's Desert Brutality 2020 event in the near future. Thank you for watching. Stick around if you want to see my bonus content diagnosing what went wrong with my 723 build on the last stage of the match. When I have malfunctions like occurred on the last stage, I'm not content until I diagnose what went wrong and determine how to prevent it from happening again. The malfunctions that occurred were indicative of the magazine not feeding fast enough. So a real simple test was to put a PMag with the same ammunition in the gun and see if any of the malfunctions would occur. Here I'm dumping a complete PMag of the same Armscore 62 grain ammunition through the gun, and there are no malfunctions. Observing the ejection pattern, it's clear that the bolt speed is too high. The bolt is traveling faster sometimes than the magazine can push rounds up to feed it. I was running a carbine buffer during this match, so perhaps installing an H buffer will slow the bolt down enough to prevent these malfunctions from occurring again. With the H buffer installed, I test fire the rifle into a bullet trap, observing the ejection pattern with these various types of ammunition. The Black Bear and Silver Bear ammo I test next are on the lighter end of the pressure spectrum. You can observe the casings eject out at about 4:30 to 5 o'clock. I prefer to shoot this ammunition out of carbine or mid-length gas systems versus the rifle-length systems I have. If I'm using it in a rifle-length system, I pull the weights out of the buffer or use a low-mass carrier. The ejection pattern with this Fiocchi 62 grain ammunition is about ideal. It's consistently ejecting at 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, which is where you want it to be. Now using the Armscore 62 grain ammunition that I was using during the match, we can see that the ejection pattern isn't necessarily consistent, with some of the rounds coming out at about 3 to 230, but a lot of the rounds kicking forward to 1 to 130. Malfunction. I experienced the same kind of malfunction again that occurred during the match. For consistency, I've refilled the same magazine with MagTech 62 grain ammunition, and we can see in the ejection pattern here that most of it is ejecting at 3 to 4 o'clock, well within the acceptable range. As I increase my cyclic rate, some of the casings go a bit further forward, but nowhere near as bad as the 1 to 130 ejection pattern of the Armscore ammunition. I feel confident in saying that the malfunctions that occurred during the last stage of the match were caused by the Armscore ammunition being hotter than anything else that I shoot. Going to an even heavier buffer could slow the bolt down enough to make it reliable with this ammunition, but it's not something that I care to do, because if I did do this, it likely wouldn't cycle reliably with the ammunition I use that's on the lower end of the pressure spectrum. My corrective action in this case is to simply avoid purchasing that type of ammunition in the future. Thank you for watching. Come back again for more match and multi-gun competition content.